Hello, everybody. Welcome. My name is Amanda Holmes, CEO of Holmes International, and what we have for you today is so special. Over the next 3 videos, I have been wanting to explain, share, and tell you everything from this story over the last 3 years, and it is finally here. It is finally here. Peeling back the curtain, the simple formula that grew one business 3,546% in 12 months. I think we've taken the double your sales to a whole nother level, and that is because of this beautiful lady, Deborah Brinkelson, here on the call. Hello, Deborah.
Hi, Amanda. Thank you so much for having me today.
Your caliber of what you've been able to accomplish as a growth expert is just so phenomenal. I mean, I love the story. Let me just share it of that steal deal of the year that you won with Arnold Schwarzenegger and Richard Branson, right? So she managed to win an award for the deal that never should have happened between those two amazing individuals, and that just kind of sets the stage for everything you've done. You know, the 3-time honoree of the most influential women in business, working with congressmen, working with U.S. presidents, working with Fortune 500 CEOs, Fortune 1000 CEOs, and it comes back down to the fact that I working with you, I just love the caliber of genuine integrity and thinking about the client, thinking about the prospect, always looking out and seeing what value can I bring in. And because of that law of reciprocity, I've found that the results that you get are just unreal. And we're about to share that with everyone today.
Thank you. Thank you for having me here.
Today we're going to cover how you are letting 90% of your revenue slip through your fingers. And we really want to just open up your minds to the possibility of what can happen when you focus on your clients as opposed to selling. So Deborah, why don't you tell us a little bit about the buyer's pyramid?
So when I first started working, I guess let's start. We're going to, over the next 3 videos, we're going to talk about how you redefine your prospects, your market, and set yourself up for that kind of exponential growth that many of our clients experience. And to make it easy so everybody can follow along, what we're going to do is we're going to use a case study of one of our clients who was making $0 for an entire 12-month period. When we first met the CEO of this company, Nadia, her company had made literally no revenue for a year. I mean, can you imagine the stress of that? And through redefining her market, which we're going to talk about right now, and implementing a really cool strategy, actually it's one of my very favorite, on owning your market, she was able to grow her revenue 3,546% in just 12 months. And so one of the first things that we did, and one of the things that we do with all of our clients that we work with, is we help them redefine their market. And Amanda's dad, Chet, came up with this fabulous buying pyramid that I love to use over and over again. So when I first met Nadia, she was selling homes. She was a real estate developer and selling homes. And she was doing it in the traditional way, you know, look at our granite and look at our lighting and let's show you our home. And what we did was, because nobody was interested in buying, we wanted to know why. What were they interested in? So we hired Empire Research Group, which one of my very favorite divisions of Holmes International is Empire, and they do an amazing job. And what they did is they researched our ideal buyers. And what we found was our ideal buyers were not interested in buying houses, which was a problem for us. But one of the things that they discovered was that this population, our ideal buyers, were at a higher than average risk for diabetes, heart disease, other stress-related illnesses, and their children were at a higher risk for teen drug use. We were trying to sell on typical housing things. So one of the things I want you to think about is think about your ideal buyers and what you're saying to them. Are you, like Nadia, talking about things that they don't care about? So when we look at an audience, we just discover, and we ask them what they're in the market for. We discover that at any one time, about 3% is in buying now. So if you say to an audience, are you looking to buy a new washing machine or a new car or a new house? About 3% are buying now. Another 7%, they're open to it. They're not buying right now, but they may be in the next, 6 months. And then the remaining 90% is really not interested. They're not thinking about it. The first 30% is not thinking about it. The second 30%, they think they're not interested. They really may be, but they don't believe they are. And then the bottom 30%, they're a hard no. They're definitely not interested. So what most companies are doing, and I'll be honest, probably 99% of the companies that I have worked with in the last 25 years, they're up here trying to sell to the top 3 to 10% of their market. Now, what that means is that they're selling where there's the greatest competition. That's where everybody's fighting to make the sale. Nobody's down here in this bottom 90% fighting for these people. They've given up on them. And the other piece that means is if you're only making your money out of the top 3 to 10%, that means that 90 to 97% of your revenue is left completely untouched. I mean, can you imagine that, Amanda? For a company, they're making, say $500,000, $1 million, $5 million out of only 10% of their potential market.
Crazy. And I think that a lot of people, they see this, they get the light bulb, but what they're missing is what we're about to cover. So make sure that you pay attention, because I love how Deborah breaks this down.
Okay, so let's do the math on that. Think of, as I'm talking about this example, I want you to think about what your actual numbers are. So let's say, and we're going to keep the numbers really simple because I'm not the greatest math whiz on the planet. So we'll keep it simple for Deborah's benefit. But let's say that you're making your money out of the top 3 to 10% of the market, and you're getting 100 leads a month. And if you're closing 30 of those leads, 30%, and each buyer represents $1,000, that's $30,000 a month income for you, right? That makes sense? Everybody following along?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so if we go to even the top 30% that thinks they're not interested or they're not thinking about it, and we open that up, instead of 10% of your market, you've now opened it up to 40% of your market. So what does that mean to you in actual numbers? So 10% of the market plus 30% equals 40% of the market. That increases your leads, assuming that you're performing at the same level, which there's no reason that you shouldn't. That increases your leads from 100 to 400 leads per month. That increases your new clients or your new buyers from 30 to 120. And what does that do to your revenue? That increases your revenue from $30,000 a month to $120,000 a month. What would you do with an extra $90,000 a month? I mean, really, what you could invest in your company, you could take a break, you could hire someone to, one of the things about people who are running businesses, and I'm sure there are a lot of people who can resonate with this. I'm going to start a business because I don't want to work for anyone else. And they end up working harder for their business because they're not able to grow it at a rate that allows them to get out from underneath it. So with an extra $90,000 a month, who could you hire to do some of the things that A, you don't like or you don't want to do, and B, aren't in your area of genius? We all have areas of genius. We all have superpowers that we're really great at. But so many of us who are running companies are doing so many things that we're not able to focus on our superpowers.
Yeah.
And we're not happy. We're
Yep.
stressed.
Yeah, I got to interject here. I mean, we know statistically that 86% of business owners would love to sell their companies, and yet 76% of businesses never get sold. So there's something to be said about, okay, I'm going to start this business. I have this dream. I'm going to grow it, and then I'm going to sell it off. And yet you just end up creating a job instead of creating a business. That's a huge thing that we teach here, you know, even so we grow your leads, okay, and then you start converting more and you're closing more sales. Can you handle that? Could you handle that kind of growth right now? That's a good problem to have. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, Deborah, keep going.
Well, and you know, I think one of the things that always strikes me when I work with clients, I get to know them personally, and I would say more than 90% of the C-levels that I work with are stressed out. They're gaining weight. They're fat. Their bodies are stressed out. Their families are stressed. I mean, I have literally had conversations with CEOs of companies. One guy was literally in tears. He said, I married the most amazing woman on the planet. I can't believe she picked me. I don't deserve her. And she's going to leave me. I've got about 3 days to figure something out because she says she's leaving because I'm working so much. And think about what an extra $90,000 a month means to someone like that. They can hire someone to relieve that burden. And think about what that means for you.
It's wonderful. Yeah, and a lot of business owners just don't think that way. How do I work? You know, everyone knows the saying, work smarter, not harder, but do you know how to do it? That's a part of what we do here. So, okay, let's keep going here.
Right. So, and just to kind of wrap that up, you know, that's you take your yearly income just with that one little simple thing. You take your yearly income from $360,000 a year to almost $1.5 million. Wow. And we all know that it takes a different skill set to run $100,000 a year company or a couple $100,000 a year company than to run $1 million or $5 million or grow it into, you know, $10, $20 million company.
Great. So Deborah, we hear this a lot where people just say, okay, I got the buyer's pyramid. It makes sense, but how do I do that for my business? And how do you go from, you know, okay, we're going to sell real estate to, you know, getting that attention to the people that are not thinking about your product or service?
Well, that's a great question. And you're right. There is a difference between the theory of the buyer's pyramid and how you turn it into making it work for you. And so, you know, as I said, we hired Empire Research Group to really figure out what our buyers cared about. And we found that these other issues were important to them. So they were looking at, you know, ads, and they were talking to salespeople who were talking about things that they didn't care about, and we were getting no traction. So when we found out what they did care about, we said, okay, we have to meet our buyers where they are. And that's one of the things that I think is really important for people to spend some time thinking about. Where are my buyers? You know, I was talking to a client yesterday, and I was playing the buying pyramid game with them, and I said, what would you say to your buyers? Well, what are you messaging them on? And we really care about you and we want to partner with you. Well, that's the kind of stuff that everyone can say. But if you know what your client is laying in bed at night, staring at the ceiling, stressed out about, then you can talk to them about that, and they're interested. And so what we did is, when we discovered, you know, that a lot of the people we were talking to, they were in their 50s possibly, and their father had died at 50 or 54. That was a stressor for them because they're like, okay, am I next? Is it my turn? And so we started talking to them about those issues. And when we would talk about those issues, we weren't trying to sell them. And what happens when you're trying to sell someone something, they can feel it energetically. And, you know, they kind of lean back. It's like, okay, wait a minute. I'm happy to sell, right? But when you talk about something that they care about and you talk about something that's going to make their life better, they start to lean in for more information. And so what Empire did for us, and what we then turned into our messaging and how this all worked, is we had a story that we walked people through. And so the first conversation we had with them was on things they cared about. You know, their children were at a 300% greater risk for teen drug use. Well, what parent doesn't care about that?
Wow.
Or, you know, the health issues. And so we talked about, you know, you're at a higher risk for these issues. Here are some general solutions. For example, you know, if you spend time by the sea, your stress level actually drops dramatically. The sound of the ocean waves, that naturally brings your stress down. You're less likely to stress eat, your heart rate slows, all of that. We started talking about that. You need to spend more time by the sea. What if you went on vacation more? Well, okay, you could do that. There's an expense there. What if you owned a home by the sea? Oh, wow, you could vacation potentially in your own home. Our homes actually all happen to be by the sea. Now, that doesn't work. This particular story doesn't work for every company, right?
Right.
But you figure out what works for yours, and you tie it together. So at this point in our working with our prospects, we haven't said one thing about selling them a property, not one. And people are leaning in. They want more information. Okay, tell us more. Well, what if, you know, one of the things we know is that when children spend time with their extended parents or their extended family and their grandparents, they're less likely to get involved in, you know, teen drug use, adverse behavior, sitting around just using their technology all day. What if you had a home where the grandparents could come and hang out sometime and spend time with your children? Wow, that's information that's of value to me. There are some strategies there that I could maybe use. Okay, so tell me more. So at this point, rather than us saying, look, we've got to tell you, they're saying, will you please tell us more? How we can make our lives better. So if you look at what's up on my screen right now, this was some of the things that we used in our actual marketing. Another one, we talked about their children. And then at some point, we're saying, you know what? Would you like to see a house that would fill some of these requirements that you now have to have a house by the sea where extended family can come and stay? Yes, we're interested in that. So what happened was, I'm going to go back up if I can to that slide of the buying pyramid. Right here. So previously, Nadia was selling up here and no one was buying. When we started talking about things they cared about, even people who said, I am not interested. In our next video, I'm going to tell you a story about one of our ideal buyers. And in my first conversation with him, he was like, absolutely not. I think these are terrible. I don't think this development is going to succeed at all. He not only ended up buying, he ended up referring other ideal buyers who bought. And so what I'm saying is, we got down here into this 30% who said, I am definitely not interested. I am not buying one of your houses. And we drove them up the buying pyramid, which is what educational marketing is all about. And we got them to the point where they're not only thinking about it, they're like, yeah, I'm ready to buy. I want to buy right now.
Beautiful. Well, like you said in that next video, I make sure you stay tuned and check your inbox for that, because when it comes in, we're really going to cover the granular pieces, you know. Okay, and I hear this, you know, day in, day out, that buyer's pyramid. Wow, I really get it. The core story approach, education-based marketing, yes. But how does it work for me? How does it work when I've found some research that works? How does it work when I think I've created a story? What are the actual deliverables? What are the scripts? What, you know, do you have ways that can walk me through it? And we do. So that'll be coming shortly. Yeah.
Yeah. And, you know, I think that's one of the things that's really important for people to understand, is having all of the data is really important. but understanding how to deploy,
Mm.
that's where you really get success. It's sort of like, people who will buy a new treadmill, January 1st, I'm going to buy a new treadmill and I'm going to get in shape and it's going to be wonderful. But if you don't plug it in or don't know how to use it, it's not going to work for you. And so that's one of the things that I really want to share in video 2 and 3 is how do you take all of that great stuff and actually deploy it and make it work for you.
Mm. Yeah, and especially video 3, right? I think that might be my most exciting one.
So what you see on the screen now, it's kind of the blueprint that Nadia used to get to that, 3,546% growth, which, sometimes I don't tell people the number of how much that actually meant in dollars because it blows people's minds and it scares them a little bit. But that translated into $602 million for her in 12 months. And so these are some of the things that we're going to cover in the next couple of videos, how to have superstars, how to create that intentional culture and all that strategic growth, and how to implement the educational marketing. And then we're also, maybe Amanda, we can share with them at some point a little surprise that we have on how they can get the exact same information and strategies that Nadia got.
Yeah. For what was it, a quarter, not even a quarter of a percentage of, of the cost?
Right.
Like a fraction of the cost.
Yeah, I think 0.13%.
Yeah.
So, I think that's one of the things that I love about working with you and CHI, Amanda, is that we're both focused on making sure that people are successful. I run into business consultants in the world for the work that I do. And one of the things that's frustrating to me so much is there's so much focus on the sale. How do I get the sale? How do I get the sale? How do I make them buy? And one of the things I love about you and CHI is that it's not about the sale. It's about making the clients successful and helping them achieve their dreams. So I'm excited about this.
Thank you, Deborah. So for all of you that are starting to get your brains working on this, Deborah, do you have any, here's a piece of homework before we start the next video and some things that you can write down in the comments box?
So I have some homework for everyone before we get to the next video. Everybody up for a little bit of homework? One of the things I really want you to do is I want you to think about maybe 5 of your current ideal clients. Who do you love working with? They pay on time, they're easy to work with, they take what you give them and they use it, they implement it, whatever it is, whether you're, doing website design or SEO or selling widgets, whatever it is, make a list of who your 5 ideal clients are. And then think about them and maybe even ask them or do a quick little survey, like on SurveyMonkey or something. You can do it for free. Do a quick little survey. 2 or 3 questions at the most. Don't make it 20. They won't respond. What are the biggest stressors in your life? You want to know when they're laying in bed at night, staring at the ceiling, and they can't sleep, what is it they're worried about? I promise you they are not worried about the new colors for their new website. That's not keeping them awake. It will be in 3 categories: money, risk, and time. They're not making enough money to have the life that they want or to invest in the company. They have risk for some reason. Their insurance rates are going up. Their workers' comp rates are going up. They have accidents in the shop, whatever it might be risk for them. Or time. Remember I told you about the CEO who was literally in tears because he was working so much. His wife was going to leave him. They're stressed about that. So think about what's keeping your ideal buyers awake at night. And in the next video, we're going to talk about, in a meaningful way, how you take that information, translate it into your messaging to your prospects so you get more of those ideal buyers.
Yeah, yeah. And I do want to add to this, Deborah. Really put yourself in their shoes. Forget what you sell. Forget what your product or service is, because, you know, sometimes they do this exercise with businesses and they say, yeah, they're thinking about whether they should use this kind of copper in their steel, you know, screws, or that kind of copper. I'm like, no, they're not thinking about that. Forget what you sell. Just put yourself in their shoes, wholly, fully. Go from there. Stay tuned.
Stay tuned. We'll see you in the next video.